Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Make Love Easy podcast. I'm here today with Jay, and it's my honor, privilege, and pleasure to introduce his training on consent. Man, glad to have you here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we met at Ricky Goodall's Conscious Intimacy Games. I think it's the last one here in Austin. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
yeah. And so I hear in that implied a commitment to like relational intelligence and skill at relating. I'm curious, what's your story and what's your angle on that world?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good. It's a great question. It all started for me about 7 years ago, 2019 March, and how it started was I was sitting in a coffee house with the love of my life sitting across the table from me, and she looked over at me and said, "I think we need to break up."
Easy little
And
words.
and my heart broke in that moment,
Oh man.
and I was, yeah, not the good three little words, but yes, three little words. But anyway, the yeah, and I was actually quite stunned and devastated. I really thought, we had a great relationship, that we could work anything out, that it was all going to be fine. We just needed to, depend on our love. um and yeah, and so yeah, I went home and cried for a while, and then I decided to try to get her back. And so I spent 6 months trying to convince her. No, not six, 3 months. 3 months trying to convince her that no, really, she loved me. We need to be together, and we could make anything work, and all these things, right? So I tried out a lot of different angles and a lot of different ways of trying to convince her that I was her man. And after about 3 months, I realized she was not saying anything different.
Yep.
And so I said, "Oh, okay. I just need to accept this is over." And in that moment, a few things happened for me. One is that I told myself, I am not going to get into another long-term relationship until I understand what I really want in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and and what I really want in my life for a partner or partners, whatever, however it might turn out. And I realized, I spent at that point almost 30 years chasing. I've been married twice, both were 10 years. And then that relationship was also 10 years. And so it was that that last relationship was actually mostly long distance. And then I had moved to Minneapolis to be near her because that's where she lived. And we were going to, explore how we were going to make it all happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of that, yeah, I just said, well, that's it. I'm not, I'm making a commitment to myself not to get caught up in another relationship before I'm gonna take a pause, and I want to understand what I really want. So since I moved to Minneapolis, for her basically, and I really don't like living in snow. I like riding on snow, but I don't like living in snow. I decided that I was going to leave. I was going to move somewhere else, and fortunately, I had the ability to be able to do that with my job. I had been working remote for many years, and so I did, and I looked at different cities, and for some reason, Austin called my name. I'd been here a few times, but I had never spent much time here. So it just turned out that later that summer there was a conference happening. It was in August, I think, of 2019, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna stay for a week, and I'm just gonna kind of check the city out and see what I think. And after I did that, I was like, yep, this is where I'm moving. I just really like the vibe of this city. And I mean, I didn't really have a lot of logical reasons. There was no job here that I was moving to. I had my work I was doing. There was no person I was moving here for. It was all just, as soon as I said I was moving, the universe lined up. Everything worked out. I found money to be able to move. I found a place to live without even coming here. I had a friend who came out and checked this place out that I'm living in right now, and told me, yeah, you should go for it. And I love it. I've been here the whole time. And I just, I found that uh, after I got here, things continued to line up and, into my desire to discover really what I want for a relationship, in my life. And so funny thing was, when I got here, a couple of things happened, and I actually with my ex, and then I ended up, going, okay, I've got to figure some more things out here. And I ended up Googling sex positive Austin, because I'd heard about sex positive, but I never really knew what it was. And I found this meetup group that's actually the sex positive Austin sex positive meetup for events in the community. So that was, and it turned out that the very next day there was an event that sounded really interesting to me about relationships and relationship styles. And so I went to that. I met a woman there who had another event that she invited me to. I went to that event. She got invited to another event and that event. So this was all within the span of about 2 months. In that event, I met River Roaring, who here in Austin is the person who leads the wheel consent workshops. And I had I'd never heard of it myself either. So, and in fact, a lot of people haven't heard about it because it hasn't been around that long, about 20 years. And it wasn't taught to the general public for a long time. So about 10 years ago, I think, was when Dr. Betty Martin, who's the originator of the methodology, she decided to start teaching it to a more general, a wide audience. And she had been actually mostly focused on, believe it or not, sex workers, because she found that it was a very powerful framework for them to work within, as they were working with their clients. So it was that, and then she expanded it. River was one of the very first people who was certified to lead the workshops to the general public, and she has been doing it ever since. So in that, of course, this was in 2020, right? So at the beginning of 2020, I had signed up for the April workshop, and of course, then COVID hit. So we didn't get to do that workshop until late June of that year, when we did finally find a place that would let us have space and not have to adhere to a lot of like social distancing, which is wonderful, good idea. But on the other hand, when you're learning consent practices through touch, it makes that a little hard. So it was just me and one other woman, and we were the ones who were adventurous enough to say, yeah, we want to do this, and we want to learn what there is to learn here. And it was great. It was a wonderful workshop, and it blew my mind so many ways. And that's the thing that I continue to hear as I fast forward to now. I've about 3 years after I took that workshop, and I continue to participate in River's additional programs and dojos that she does for people who've done the workshop can come and practice for an afternoon on a Saturday, and just refresh their memory, or just go deeper. And it's all non-sexual touch. It's clothes on and all that. So, but it can be applied to any level of relationship. And I decided to, about 3 years into my journey, I said, I think I want to teach this stuff. And and it really felt right to me. I was just like, yeah, this is like my life's calling. And so I started on the journey of going through the educational process to be able to lead the wheel consent workshops. Actually, at this point in time, I'm not certified yet, but that part of that is because they don't run the certification workshop trainings very often, and so the next one is probably later this year or early next. And however, the School of Consent, who manages all of the certification process, is also not. It's also okay for people who are wanting to use the distinctions of the wheel to teach them in your own formats, and as long as you don't say it's an official wheel consent workshop. So that's what I'm doing now, and and so yeah, that's my journey for sure. And so now I actually have a business called The Joy of Consent. You can check out my website at joyofconsent.com. And the reason I named it that was because what I discovered was with this sort of a framework, with the Wheel of Consent, you I discovered that it's really joyful when you know you have agreement in a touch interaction. We'll put it to that level. When you know you have agreement and you know your partner will also tell you if they, they will call a limit if they are done, or if you go outside of the agreement. And that is one of the distinctions of, I mean, in general, it's distinction of consent, but it's very clearly defined in the way that it's taught in the wheel. So yeah, so that's really my journey to where I am today, as a facilitator who is leveraging the wheel of consent information to get out there and show more people the joy of it.
Well, thank you for sharing. Delightful. Today's today's going to be efficient. I love it. So, I got a lot of resonance. Like as I went through my journey over the past 15 years, I got in several serious relationships, got engaged several times, and then those relationships concluded. And one of them was long distance. And I also, in the last several relationships, went to dramatic ends to try to convince the partner that hey, no, this can work. In fact, I wrote a best-selling book about sacred sexuality and new age self-help in 2024 that was supposed to convince my partner, it's this here, that that we're meant to be together, and it did not work. Those seldom those types of things work. Um,
It sold a lot, but it didn't actually bring the outcome you were hoping.
Correct. It sold enough, and actually, like it showed me the ways in which I was still attached
Mm.
and like incomplete about the relationship. Like the relationship was finished, but I was not complete with it. And yet I wouldn't trade it for the world because, that wasn't the first time I wrote a book to try to win a partner back about the relationship.
Okay.
There's another one called The Treasure of Souls Touching. But so I empathize with the slingshot of pain, suffering, desire, sort of bringing us back up into a realm of like greater capacity and
Mhm.
skill.
Yeah.
And I think I know River. She worked with one of my clients back in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my very first coaching clients. And then I engaged in what's called at the end of 2024 a sensual touch container, where it was like I desire to receive pleasure from you for my joy, or I desire
Mhm.
to give you pleasure for your satisfaction or to receive. And
Mhm.
it was very fascinating. It was very nourishing to a
Mhm.
certain degree. Um, and interesting how we can create a cartography, like a map of desire through consent and refine our awareness of what that is,
Mhm.
and how that works and how we can improve sex and relationship through it. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's primarily why you're here is I'd love to learn more about that framework, and my people could
Sure.
definitely
Sure. Sure.
benefit from it. And by the way, as a almost certified Qigong teacher, I've learned that I'm very much good enough. I just led a retreat for 4 days teaching qigong. So even if the officials haven't
Yeah.
signed a form or given a certificate to say, "Hey, you're good enough," you have the rubber stamp that you as a person merit the attention that you're getting through the expertise you hold. Like,
Mhm.
be it known, I see it in you. So
Yeah, thank you.
great, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I similarly, I actually last year in February, Charlotte Hathaway invited me to teach with her at for an intimate a couples intimacy retreat in Nicaragua at a small resort down there, and that was the first time I actually led pretty much everything of the Wheel of Consent. And I'd actually met her through Betty being in a training with Betty Martin. So that was how we got connected. And then, for folks who don't know who Charlotte is, I mean, she's kind of a legend here in Austin as far as somebody who was in the sexual education and intimacy, relationship coaching
Hmm.
business as well. And you know, I just saw her a couple of weekends ago. Yeah, she was here for doing a play, a one person play. So that was cool that she wrote about her life. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, in that moment at the end of that week, and through the experiences that I went through with the people who were there, and one of the people who was in the workshop or the yeah in the whole journey across the week, was the owner of the resort and her beau, um, and we worked through some really heavy things. Uh, can't really go into them because of
Consent.
confidentiality. But
Yeah.
I can say that at the end of it, because she's actually there's a testimonial on my website from her, and she's given me permission to say that yeah, she at the end of that she did say like you are an excellent facilitator and you should be doing more of that. We need more men doing this, and I was like, thank you for that. you know
Yeah.
that was a really amazing week. And at the end of that, I'm like, you know what, I can do this. Um, and it really brought my confidence level to a new place. I came back and told River that, and she looked at me and went, "Okay, I got it." um, yeah, like I can see it. And so, yeah, and it just put a bow on my relationship with the love of my life who broke up with me. Um, I actually ended up forgiving her and thanking her for understanding that we were not a good fit. And it was in a situation where it was like a reunion that we were both at, and I she was there with her new fiance, and so we had a really interesting conversation where I forgave her and met him, and then we partied all weekend. So it was a really nice ending to a very difficult time in my life. Um, and I felt completely just like that was resolved and healed and has that just made my heart whole again. And so that and so where did that all come from? I mean, it came from the distinctions of the wheel itself. And I learned through my journey. I actually learned the reason why my monogamous relationships were failing, and that is because I'm not really a monogamous person.
Huh.
So, so once I understood that I've always been polyamorous, even from my youngest relationships, I remember wondering why I couldn't have more than one. But then I just conformed, tried to fit in and tried to make it work, and did what my parents in society and I guess religion. I weren't that religious, but what it said, what everybody said you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so of course my polyamorous nature kept coming out in the shadows of my relationships. Not proud to say I, cheated on my wives, but I did, and it's in the past. And I've resolved with them as well. Everything that happened there. We all parted friends, and that uh, you know once I saw that, I realized, oh, okay, now I actually know what kind of relationship, well, now ships, I want in my life,
Yeah.
and that I want to have partners who also understand what I do about consent and the because what so the wheel of consent, I think it's I guess uh, the most subtle and profound and powerful distinction of the wheel of consent or concept that is taking a look at an interaction and considering who is it for.
Mm.
And so this actually kind of plays into that workshop you told me about, where you're doing that sort of work as well, which is and this was actually what Betty Martins figured out, which is what she saw, what she realized was missing from a lot of consensual relationships, right, or consensual interactions. And so when, for example, if you open a door and you see someone on a massage table with someone with their hands on them, and then close the door, um, who's that for?
I mean, the person, if they've purchased a massage, that massage is for them.
Sure, sure, because that's an active service, right? But could it be for the one who's touching? You don't know really. I mean,
Could
if
also
you just
be, yeah, it could be at the same time. I asked my massage therapist before the retreat, I was like, does doing this put you into a state of flow? And she said, yes. And
mm,
like, that's interesting to consider because should a massage therapist ask consent and permission from each and every person, each and every time
mm,
who asks them for a massage, do you consent to me receiving from the giving that I'm engaging in?
mm,
And would that lose them money? Would that gain them money?
mhm,
Would
mhm.
that threaten their financial well-being and fundamental
Yeah,
stability to introduce a power dynamic into a situation where maybe if it were kept, I mean, I don't think it's harming anyone that, for
it
example, me teaching puts me into a state of flow. So I don't ask
sure.
my entire following for consent to use teaching them as a way to feel good. So it's interesting.
Yeah, the well in the wheel of consent, there was always the one person who it is for, right? The one who is either uh, you know touching the other person because they want to, or receiving touch because they want to. So now, and it is for. So if I'm saying, I want to, may I um, rub your head for 5 minutes, you know,
Pure
that's for me,
pleasure, right?
right? That's for me.
Yeah.
But there is this other concept called bonus pleasure, and and bonus pleasure is the pleasure that the person who is allowing the touch is, or yeah, in that particular interaction, like you would be allowing me to do that if you said yes. And then
Hmm.
I would, then you might think that feels really good that I'm rubbing your head. And so, even though it's, the interaction was put together for me. And so there is, yeah, bonus pleasure is a big, I think that's where people sometimes go, well, why can't we both enjoy it? Well, you can, but it's just really understanding like who it really is for, and why that makes a difference is because then I can be following my desire and my pleasure to the maximum, completely involved in the relation, in the interaction, and not worry at all about whether you enjoy it, or maybe, or wonder if maybe you're not enjoying it because it's for me. And in the will consent, we also learn the concept of limits. And if I'm rubbing your head and maybe I start going, and you're like, ouch, that hurts, you say, limit, stop. I'm calling my limit. you know and then I stop because, okay, I thought that might be fun, but you don't. So that's the place we stop.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Because structurally, the assumption is that it can, should, and is. Um, it starts with an intention for one person, then it can
Mm-hmm.
only be for one person at a time, and then the frame spins the meaning of the experience and the event in
Mm-hmm.
alignment with that primary intention. And then it's sort of like, all right, so may I rub your head for my pleasure? May I depersonalize your wants and needs throughout the giving and the receiving process as an object of my pleasure? Is
Yeah.
basically what you're asking. May I treat you as a means to an end rather than as an end unto yourself for a
Yes.
duration?
Yes, and that's a gift actually, right? So, and when we say who is it for, we're actually talking about who is the gift of the experience for.
Huh.
And so that's a slightly different way of looking at things, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm completely objectifying you. It just means that I know that I have your consent for me to touch you the way I've asked.
Well, yeah, I was just going on what you said, which is like I can give myself fully to the experience without having to worry about your
Yeah, yeah.
pleasure.
Well,
And
some people interpret that as being like I'm objectifying you, because it's for me and I'm touching you. But that's not really what happens, right? Because it's also, part of the bonus pleasure is realizing that you are a gift. You are being a gift in that moment for that person.
yeah, your level of giving, I like to tell my people, is capped at your level of receiving because it's the same
Hmm.
thing. It's just which frame from which
Yeah.
angle are you
Yeah.
looking at it. And one of my mentors, he was teaching this Awaken Your Wealth segment. He was talking about how this woman buying him a soup was a huge gift to her because she was a
Mhm.
huge giver and she was experiencing great pleasure at watching him receive. So it then becomes a matter of semantics and how it gets framed in the moment because either or both could be going on at any time in any direction for any reason, with both people having or not having some kind of an experience. Whether we know it, like it, agree with it or not, if I give someone a head rub for my pleasure, they may experience pleasure,
Mhm.
or they may have wanted that but not asked for it, and I just got there first.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And then there's this feedback loop of somatic interaction and mutuality and co-regulation that takes place below conscious awareness and verbal communication anyway. So like that's going to happen. That's going to get ignited and be a relevant, non-trivial thing that's going on, regardless of what window dressing frames we put on it.
Correct. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with you there.
So then my biggest curiosity is like, how have you seen this framework improve relationships and smooth out wrinkles of conflict or
Yeah.
support depth of connection?
Yeah, well, at that, let me one example I definitely
Yeah.
give that's about the from the perspective of a facilitator from that intimacy retreat in Nicaragua. The other couple who is actually from Austin, also, they were you know they're older folks. They've had they had three boys, I think, and then all their boys now are like college age, so they were sort of becoming empty nesters. And so they were there to kind of relearn how to interact with each other and be intimate. Um, not that they didn't have intimacy in their life, but
Huh.
they had fallen into certain patterns. And I think that that's what was really valuable to them. And in fact, what the husband said at the end of the workshop, when I said, well, how has this been valuable for you? What did you learn? What jumps out at you as being something that you can take home and use for the rest of your life? And he's like, it's like, I learned that I can have little intimate moments with my wife that don't have to go anywhere else.
Mhm.
And she can do the same with me. And that just like, wow, because
Yeah.
in their pattern, in their relationship pattern, it had become like, if I touch you, oh, that means we got to have sex. you know?
Huh. Yeah. So stripping the artificial or the automatic meanings
Yes.
we have imposed upon
Ooh,
interactions.
I got chills. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It shoots the connection and the container of relating through with new intentionality, new potential for intentionality, opportunity for choice,
Yeah.
depth, subtlety, sophistication of intimacy. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, just to say, can we cuddle on the couch for, a few, 10 minutes or something? I don't want anything else. I just want to cuddle, you know? Um,
Oh,
and yeah.
there was a training system I was involved in for a while. It's become fairly controversial. One Taste.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so they were famous for the orgasmic meditation and
Right.
do you want me to go a little to the left, a little to the right, a little faster, harder? Uh, uh,
Yeah.
and so there's this opening of a space in communication during that practice
Hmm.
is meant to unfold into relationship where people are feeling into the embodied like quality of their desire in the moment and
Hmm.
how it may shift, change, alter, or they may have given consent and then it may be withdrawn. And um, so like there was a time when I did this with someone like an orgasmic meditation, and we closed the container, and then afterwards there's this space for asking for what they call makeouts, right? So that there's an open space for any desire. And I was like exactly what you're saying. Oh, would you like to cuddle? And we cuddled, and as we're cuddling, would you like to kiss? Oh, yeah. Would you like to have sex? And then so there was a charm to the specificity of the intentionality and the sort of
Hmm.
like, hey, blooming, blossoming opening that occurred at every step.
Yeah.
And we had another consent expert here last month. Her name was Steph Hammett, and she's created a company called Have More Space, Have More Sex, Have More Consent. And she's all about changing consent laws which
Mhm.
are not in alignment with the reality of how
Yeah.
people live, or people get raped and then they have no recourse or whatever. And she was talking about how you know consent is sexy, and the more consent we
Yes, it is.
have, the
Yeah.
more felt opportunity of like stripping away that artificial constraint or
Yeah.
story or autopilot programming, the more our desire gets to be expressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, are you and maybe and your audience okay with a kind of a graphic example or
Yeah,
sexual
sure.
example? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I didn't want to. I have others, but I really like this one. So I have a partner, well, ex-partner now, but uh, we were I guess what you might call well, we were in a partnership, and it was occasional. So like once a month we'd get together. And so that went on for about 3 or 4 years. And she's done the will of consent also, and was very, very well practiced in it. And we that's how that was always whenever she usually came over to my place, and we would start out by just talking and getting related again, and catching up on each other's lives, and then we would move into our playtime.
Mhm.
And we it always started with one of us asking what the other person desired, and then we would move into that. And so during one of these sessions, um I had a deep desire to go down on her,
Yeah.
to enjoy her yoni, and for me, right? That's just for me. And so she agreed, um, and so and we always use a timer, so it was like 7 minutes, and because that way there's an end, right? There's a defined ending to the interaction. And so after the alarm went off after 7 minutes, I said thank you. She said you're welcome, and I said okay, well, what do you desire, my love? And she said, well, more of the same, but I want you to do this and this and this and
Cool.
this, and touch me this way, and you know all this. And so it was very, she was very explicit about exactly what she wanted. So in the first interaction, it was for me, and I was taking the action. In the second
Mhm.
interaction, it was for her, and I was still the one doing the action. But and then she was guiding me, right? As we went through the interaction, if there was something different she wanted, she told me. And and I would, okay, if it wasn't something outside of my limits, which nothing was. Then it was very much
Look,
uh,
don't get distracted by my notes. I
yeah, yeah.
accidentally hit enter. But
No, no problem. And so and so that's just a really same interaction, but who's it for, right? And who's getting the gift, who's receiving the gift, who's being the giver.
yeah, so there's so many questions and there's so many wrinkles to this. Thank you for sharing that example. What a great example. It's actually been a strong desire of mine for a while. It was funny. I was talking to a very Christian mother, like single mother recently, and I was like, yeah, I just want to go down on a Christian woman.
All
Like an
right, well,
attractive Christian woman, which is highly unlikely that that's going to happen, right? Given the nature of the programming and the um whatever in that religious tradition. But yeah, what I'm present to in your sharing and in the this rich, it's becoming richer for me because I have a little pushback initially, and then I'm like, all right, let me warm to it, let me see how it works. The fresh, it's like you sit down with your partner, you get related, and then there's a fresh reset of aliveness in the body and field of desire. It's like, where
mhm.
are you at now? What do you
Yeah.
want now?
What do you want right now? Yeah.
Without assumptions. So it's again stripping away that past
Hmm.
patterning, even if it's just recently slightly accumulated from, our last meeting a month ago or whatever.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm also curious, did it feel different for you? The between you giving to her for your pleasure and her getting exactly what she wanted afterwards. Like, was it
Oh yeah.
different
Yeah.
for you after or before?
Oh, sorry. Ask that question again. I Sorry.
Yeah, was it more satisfying for you in the first instance or the second instance? Like doing exactly what she asked it for, or when you
Yeah.
for yourself?
Right. Well, again, doing it for me, that's the space of joy for me, right? Like when I know I have permission, consent to do what I just asked for with somebody, for a set period of time, and it's such a freeing. It frees me to just be in joy and enjoy myself, and enjoy what I'm doing and what I'm receiving as a gift from my partner. And did she enjoy it? Yeah, she did. Of course, it was bonus pleasure for her. And so when we switched, I knew it was for her. So my attention wasn't on how good is it for me. It was more about it was more on um, making sure I was fulfilling her request the way that she asked for it. And as we went along through the interaction, she would say, "Wait, do this instead, maybe a little to the right," and whatever, that kind of thing. A little bit omish in that regard, but or om-ish.
Yeah.
But yes, the that was so. And then but because it was for her, and I was serving her in that interaction, she could just enjoy it and then tell me what else she wanted
Huh.
until the timer went off.
Yeah, and I also like the container, like the nature of a timer
Yeah.
structuring the thing. I'm familiar with that from Ohm, but I'm curious subjectively on your own, like with a partner, how do you design that? Like how do you know that it's 5 minutes versus 10 minutes? I mean, you
No,
just
you
put out
agree
your
to it
butt.
beforehand. You agree to it beforehand. Yeah, that's part of the agreement. So
Yeah,
when I mhm.
I'm asking a deeper question, which is like, where does the desire for
Oh, I see.
per
I
person
see.
come from before the?
For me, for example, when I asked, I said, I'm the one who said, can I do this for 7 minutes?
Huh.
Right. And what went through my brain and body in coming up with that time was just really like, well, first of all, how long can I sustainably do this?
Without a pussy snorkel, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
taking
And
time.
then secondly, like how uh, how long do I think it's going to take me to feel like I received a really, really rich gift?
Huh.
And so, we usually would use time frames of either 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. We always went on the odd numbers. I don't know. Um, I think at one point I did ask for 11 minutes for something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but that was really the longest time frame. And then we would just switch. And so, it's funny because people ask me, like people I know in the kink community, they say, are you a dom or a sub or a switch? And I'm like, well, I kind of came to any of this through switch
Yeah.
because that's what you do with the wheel.
Huh. I really love this because it dignifies all parties participating
Exactly.
with a like rich specified exercise of their power and their authority over receiving and giving.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That is true. Well said. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it provides a level of freedom that uh, I think many frameworks of consent don't address, and or don't get to because they don't address the who is the interaction for. And in a lot of communities, you'll hear people saying, "Well, it's for both of us. If when we agree, it's for both of us." It's like, okay, well, yeah, is everybody really getting what they want?
Hmm.
Is anybody getting exactly what they want?
Yeah, yeah, that I loved that at our event, the conscious intimacy games, and then in events like it, there's a sense like Latihan. I'm sure you've been to Latihan.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, where it's like I have a craving. I actually have a craving for this very specific thing in this very
Mm,
specific way.
mm,
And I don't need to go all the way into like full intercourse or like a full relationship or whatever to get it.
right.
And so it's like also dignifying the unique specificity of someone's desire in the moment and per person. It's like really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's this is why, like I said, this is why I named my business The Joy of Consent, because to me, there is no, in this form of consent, it's not drudgery, right? Like, which is what people are kind of taught in the general public. You know, if they're taught anything about consent, you know, I mean, you know, I've heard some people say, well, my in high school they told us just don't, you know, you can't have a drunk girl can't consent. That was the entire
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
conversation.
Make sure she
Oh,
doesn't
and
get drunk.
then by the way, if she's not drunk, you do have to ask for everything each step of the way.
Yeah. At which point, there's the general assumption that, oh, that's not sexy because it shows
Right,
uncertainty or a lack of confidence on the part of the man who, at the level of the mammal, like biology,
right. It's
has a
supposed to.
tendency in nature to claim or reach for before and without verbal consent. You look at
Yeah,
the animals that we are descendants of, according to evolutionary theory, and
yeah,
they don't, I mean, maybe they do. Maybe baboons and bonobos,
yeah, yeah.
they do have
Yeah.
some form of consent. Do you know anything about that research? I'm curious.
I don't actually, but it's an interesting thing to, you know, it's a interesting thought experiment. Like, do they? Yeah, I don't know. I've never observed them closely enough to notice if there's any interaction there where it could be like, hey, you and me, you
Yeah, we
know.
in the animal kingdom, so to speak, we humans are weird birds. Like I
Yeah,
think it was Adam Phillips, psychotherapist, in his book Monogamy. He says we're the only ones who worry about whether or not we're monogamous. Like in the same way, I think he'd say something like we're the only ones who worry about consent. I mean,
yeah.
fundamentally, um,
That's all because of our meaning making minds. You know, that's really it. And what's interesting to me is, you know, even though I have declared myself as polyamorous, um, and I am, I also have seen people be very successful in monogamous relationships, right? Because that just fit them. I mean, I know a couple that's been together for, let's see, they're he just turned 101. I think she's like
wow.
98. They're still both living, and
How long have they been together?
they've been married since they were maybe, I don't know, somewhere 18 to 20.
Holy shit,
Yeah.
man.
So, you know, that worked for them.
That's
And
incredible.
and yeah, whenever I see them together, they're just very happy with each other. They enjoy it and they have, you know, very candid conversations. And I mean, that's the you know, that really works for them. So no shame in that game or any other relationship configuration as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I consider myself queer because I I explore.
Yeah,
So
I can only imagine, man, the depth. Thank you for bringing up that example. Like, this is fascinating to me. The depth of co-regulation and attachment that could
yeah,
come about over the course of 80 to 90 years between people. I mean, that's
yeah,
wow. And
yeah.
were they coming through one of your events or just
No, I just know them from life, yeah, from, you know,
huh.
the other events in life that yeah,
So I have a curiosity for you.
sure.
Um, in the world of like dating and relating, one of my
Mm,
mentors says famously that um, often people's their perceived personal sexual and romantic desires are actually contaminated by or camouflaging deeper unmet emotional and spiritual needs.
mm,
At which point, if all someone has access to is their conscious mind's felt sense of
mm,
what feels good in their body or not in the moment, there may be a whole submerged iceberg of a world that runs underneath their informed consent, changing the ethical situation and universe of their consent. Like, I'm
mm,
consenting to have sex with you, but I don't realize that even though it's just casual sex, it's actually an avoidant attached nervous system's deactivation strategy in order to
mm,
run away from my fear of intimacy. And I've been with women like that who I'm
mm,
almost 100% certain, to the best of my ability to observe empirically without strict testing, that they were using casual sex with me that they fully and enthusiastically consented to subconsciously to run away from pain and trauma inside themselves. At
mm,
which point we go the speed of the slowest person in the room, right? That's the common thing in sex parties and whatnot. At which point, also, if I have that awareness, then it's on me with great power and distinction comes great responsibility to say, well, you're actually not mature enough to give informed consent. But then if you
mm.
actually say that as an act of love, confronting the dysfunction underneath someone who's like super horny, ready, willing, able, excited for you right there in the moment, that may piss them the fuck off.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
That's
the
true.
truth what is it? The truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first, even though love confronts dysfunction and fear
Yeah.
confronts in dysfunction. So yeah, I'm curious how you would respond to that whole world of like deep relational, spiritual, emotional trauma.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the conversations, I mean, I'm going to just give you kind of a
yeah,
snippet of
sure.
it, but one of the, because we wouldn't have enough time to go through the whole thing. But one of the conversations in the wheel is about or the way that River teaches it and the way I teach it is like, we have, well, for me, okay, I'll be, I like to say level 61 next week. Um,
That's adorable. I love it. Thank you.
And well, that makes me feel better than saying, "Oh, I'm old." So,
Oh, that's good.
and I also know that I look a lot younger than I am,
You.
but that's just my thank you, parents. And so, but in what, so I've been on this earth for that long, and I've accumulated a lot of things in this brain, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of
Yeah.
knowledge, a lot of knowledge. We like to sort of shortcut it to say, like spreadsheets. So we have all these spreadsheets in our head about
Yeah.
what this means, what that means, all these things, all the considerations and judgments and everything that we have that we've developed over our lifetimes, and mostly they're completely disconnected from our desires.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times when people get into like a sex party situation or a BDSM party or something, right, and it's like they're going by the spreadsheet. What haven't I done yet? What do I think I want to do that I haven't done yet? And they're not really checking in with their full body. And your body, if you think about it, we've evolved over a long time, and our bodies actually have tons of wisdom in
Uh-huh.
them. In our, and if you really think about our body, I think about my body sometimes like, what? How does this thing work? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't even know, And then I learned some new fact about, gut health, and I'm like, wow. And there's these little things, they live in there,
Yeah.
and and the happier they are, the happier I am, and it's just like this whole complex system of interaction and I would say imbued wisdom of evolution. And we do actually, I mean, when we make choices normally and not under pressure or in an intense situation, we make them from our gut. We don't really make them from our head. So, the example I like to give, because one of the places I've done a lot of work is in marketing psychology, and one of the things about that is that we never make a purchasing decision based on logic.
Yes.
Every single purchasing decision. I'm not talking about cars. I mean, I'm talking about bread. But all of that comes from an emotional feeling of this is the thing. And so where one of the things that we do in the world of consent is to help people, and this is why, well, we help people get in touch with their bodies and their bodies' desires and their bodies in the moment, in like what would feel good right now, body, and then it will, and wait for the answer, because it will arise, it will form, and you don't have to choose from a spreadsheet of options that's in your head. And that's why I've actually created the workshop I'm teaching intermittently right now, but that's called Find Your Inner Yes.
Huh.
Um, and the idea of that workshop really is to, in 4 hours, help people get to a place of getting in touch with their bodies,
Mm.
and using some of the concepts from the Wheel of Consent also to help them move forward with getting experience, and eventually in touch with more about what they want and being able to ask for it and receive it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah. It occurred to me that marketing and sales does not ask for consent. It is in fact the opposite of consent. It's like a paving of a path for the intention of the one exercising the power of marketing
Yeah.
skill,
Yes.
and then forwarding the agenda of the sales skill person. And I've been studying marketing and sales as an entrepreneur for about 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm effectively marketing and selling, I do my best to incorporate an informed awareness. Again, with great power comes great responsibility of where they're coming from and what they actually need, what their current capacity is.
Yeah.
Because I've had situations where great marketers and great salesmen overrode my body's consent
Oh
and
yeah.
eroded my boundaries. And then
Hmm.
suddenly I bought a $6,000 program that it's like, this is not the thing. That was not me resisting a big decision. It was me just not wanting the thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a totally different thing, but I had a similar situation when I really needed a car, and you know, ended up buying a $26,000 car that was more than I really wanted. Yeah, good salesmanship.
Do you think that the education and consent would inform culture in general to a extent of like marketing and sales having to shift if this information and
Interesting.
awareness came?
Interesting. Well, I think there's an opportunity for that. I mean, it may take, centuries, but I mean, yeah, uh, you know, the yeah, well, um, it is just true that marketing people have become experts. Really good marketing people have become experts in human psychology, and knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it in such a way that you are going to get caught up in what they have, what they want to sell you. Um, yeah, and that's not really consent, right? It really is sort of it's convincing, right? It's where I'm going to convince you, and you're going to buy. And so, for example, after I purchased that $26,000 car, I went, wait, I didn't really want to do that.
Yep.
And but in the moment it was just what there was to do. So it was just definitely one of those very consentless situations, and I ended up keeping the car, and it's fine. It's a great car.
Huh.
But and I managed to shift my finances around so I could really afford it. And so now it's like, okay, good. Now I'm not upset about it, but in that moment I was like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
So yeah. um it was, yeah. So I think there is an opportunity for, and I don't know, that's another interesting conversation that we could go deep on, I'm sure. But it's like, where can we actually make um, marketing, especially more consentful? Um, yeah,
Consentful. I like it. It's a
yeah,
great word. I've never heard that before, but yes, you're making sexuality and relationship more consentful. And then there's a
yes,
downstream impact of sensitizing in these ways.
yeah. And that might be an automatic outcome of something. I mean, this conversation, the wheel of consent conversation has only, like I said, been around 21 years. There's probably um, you know, still less than 100,000 people who have actually studied it in a workshop setting. I mean, a lot of people have read the book because Betty did write a book. That's called the Art of Receiving and Giving,
Huh.
um,
Cool.
and that is available on Amazon or whatever. It's also a audiobook. So and what's interesting about that is people still, people come to Rivers workshops and say, I read the book and I said to myself, no, I need to experience this.
Yes.
Because and River says, yeah, well, that's because you got the map of the Grand Canyon, but you didn't get the experience of hiking it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah,
That's so good. I've been peripherally aware of those workshops in that community for a while, and now I'm deeply interested, and I'm sure my men in my community will be too after
yeah.
hearing this. Looking
Well,
at
there is one coming up. I think it's the end of May. So if you want to go to her website, it's riverroaring.com. And then she has a calendar page with all the events and who they're for. Some of
cool.
them are just for people who've already, she calls us wheeled heads. People have done the
Yeah, I saw
workshop.
that. I looked
And
at your site after you mentioned it. I was like, oh, wheelheads, that's cute.
yeah, yeah. And then for everybody else, there's those events too. So yeah. And yeah, her workshop is, I'll just say this. I mean, I'm not trying to pitch it, but what I'm saying is it's as valuable as the price, which is $1,200 for the
Oh,
weekend.
well, here's the thing, man.
It's actually more valuable than
I
that.
didn't consent to marketing. I'm just kidding. I don't care. Like, I mean, I have a friend who I've got YouTube Red, right? So there's no commercials, but my friend, he's like, oh, as a good marketer, I invite commercials so I can learn
Mm.
from
Yeah.
how they work. And
Yeah.
he's still in business after 20 years. So I mean, yeah, we could go into that whole world of
Yeah. Yeah.
in order to stay
Well,
in business or effectively make whatever value you have available to someone, if you give a shit about them, you have to be good at marketing and sales. And
yeah.
like ideally hearts in a heart-centered way.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, and that's a whole nother realm. I'm
Yeah.
sure you could speak interestingly to it though.
Well, yeah, I mean, just, in marketing my own workshops, I usually do it in person at events because, after, I'll put the event up on Eventbrite, and then, that attracts some attention, and then, I'll start posting about it. Um, but what I found is like me talking to people about the event at workshops, I mean, at different meetups, basically.
Yeah.
Um, people start to get really interested, and they don't, and I'm not even trying to sell to them. I'm just talking about it. So, and even had an experience last Sunday, or just, I guess, this past, yeah, Sunday. A guy, I went to a coffee event for, kinky people, and he walked up to me and said, "When's your next event? I really want to come." And I'm like, "Wow, I haven't I haven't scheduled it yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I do."
Okay.
And yeah, and I am looking at, yeah, I've got some family things with, my dad's health that I need to work through, but I am looking at, so just like I might have to go be with him for a few weeks, at any given time. So that's been a little bit difficult to schedule things, but I am looking at like the end of June as a potential place. So if people want to find out, get on my list, they can just sign up at joyofconsent.com, get on my list, and I'll be announcing it there when I do schedule it.
Amazing. Why, I've got one major thing to engage with you on. If you've got 5 minutes past what we had planned.
Yeah, yeah, I can hang out. I can hang
Cool.
out.
I want to acknowledge you for the wisdom of the body and bringing that in. I love that there is an infrastructure of distinctions for sort of dancing with this meaning making machinery that has come
Mhm.
about to support boundaries and dignity and sovereignty and autonomy and
Mhm.
whatnot. And I am intrigued, and thank you for the book recommendation. And yeah, we've got your website for people to come in. Um, I'd love to run a live example by you of
Okay.
consent situation and how to phrase and frame and engage around it. I love being the guinea pig for my guests. It
All
shows
right.
skills, and I get to receive some.
Okay. I'm up for the challenge.
All right. So there's this woman who I've been on again, off again involved with for like 10, 13, almost 13 years actually. I met her and she was too young, and then I met her again a couple years later and we started dating, having sex, got into a relationship, broke up. A couple years later, we had sex again. A couple years later, we reconnected. Um, and so we've gone through periods of like, you're terrible, or oh wow, I'm intrigued. And recently, she's fallen on hard times, but I messaged her and I was like, oh, I'm attracted to you still. I'm still like, there's a spark here. And we got to talking. It was mostly her complaining about how difficult her life was with her dad, and there's like judgment on her sexual orientation. And it's like, I think, bisexuality. And so we planned a date. We planned to go out to get tea. And then I messaged her to ask, well, how you doing today, this morning? And she was like, I'm doing great. Or she said, let me actually quote it. Hi there. I'm couch surfing. Why? You got one? Talk about a lack of subtlety and rich sensitivity in asking for consent about something. And so the whole day I've been like growing a list of bullet points like, okay, well, how long are you asking to stay? Do you realize what you're consenting to or asking me to consent to? Because
Yeah.
there's chemistry here, so there may be sex, like there may be all kinds of stuff that emerge from this. And then there's also this felt sense of like, well, wait a second, if she's couch surfing, if she needs to couch surf at all, do I really want to be involved with somebody who's having that kind of financial or life instability?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So all told, my curiosity, my direct specific question for you is like, how would I, as the person with greater sort of financial and relational capacity, exercise my power and responsibility to lovingly, gently, but also not awkwardly sensitize her to the consent situation
Mm,
around that? You know what I'm
mm.
asking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of actual conversations. And in this world, we do a lot of texting, a lot of emailing, a lot of posting, and all of that's done from our own context. And it's also received from our own context. And so if I'm in a bad mood and somebody sent me that text message, I'd be like, fuck you, like,
No,
you
right?
know, and I might react that way. But if I'm obviously you've had an interest over a long span of time in your life with her, and so you might be like, oh, but you have some compassion for her as a human being, right? So I mean, for me, what I would do in that moment would say, hey, you know what? Let's get together and talk about this. Like if see if there's a way I can support you, and I want to know more about what your situation is and what's going on. Be curious. I mean, that's my mantra is be curious, not judgmental.
Uh-huh.
And it's I found it on a T-shirt that jumped out at me at one point when I was looking for a costume at Goodwill, and I saw this T-shirt. It was a really awesome blue color, and I pulled it out, and it had that message on it. I didn't realize that it was from Ted Lasso, but I hadn't seen that episode yet. And when I did, I went, "Oh, that's where that came from." But for me, it was like just a message from the universe,
Yeah.
and it's the way I try. It's the context I play with the most in life. I would say I can't say that I'm 100% good at it, but I do catch myself now when I'm finding myself in a judgmental space. And I think it also what can happen in a conversation with let's meet and talk this through is so different from what could happen from making a list of stuff and sending it to her, right, in a text. And so I really encourage people, get out in the world and talk to people and just have a conversation. Especially if there's somebody you're interested in, and get to know them and get to see where they're at, and also get to a point of knowing that this person is, like, you could say, like, yeah, capable of a consentful relationship where things could go in really positive ways. But it's hard in this day and age when so many people don't have these types of consent skills. It can be a messy thing, especially on texting or social media, messaging,
Yeah.
or anything like that, because you're just it's all one-way communication, really.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's no depth of emotional sensitivity.
Yeah.
There's just text and pixels on the screen, and then the
Hmm.
interpretation someone is left with. So elegantly, efficiently, and lovingly done. I appreciate it. Very,
Thank
very
you.
good coaching there.
Yeah.
So yeah, any last words for our audience, or just recommendations on where to follow you for more?
Well, I don't. It's funny, you would think I do a lot more on social media, but I don't. So I prefer, like I said, the in-person, the word of mouth kind of thing. But definitely, people can go to my website, joyofconsent.com, and sign up there. I'm in the process of putting together things like educational emails and things like that. So that sort of stuff will start to trickle out in the near future. And also events. So yeah, I do. I mean, if people are really interested in the Wheel of Consent, I actually do assist with River at all of her Wheel of Consent, or what she calls her weekend workshop, which is an official Wheel of Consent workshop. So I assist with her there. You can come meet me there, and we can talk. One of the things that on my website, you'll see the kinds of things that I'm offering to folks, and I do offer one-on-one uh, coaching and well, I like to call it more like guiding,
Yeah.
relationship and intimacy guide. And also I offer couples with sort of like the people that I work with in Nicaragua, offer those types of things to them as well. And I would love to work with some polyamorous folks who are working through, conflicts and struggles in their relationships as well.
I
So
love that. Yeah, that's like graduate level relationships. That's graduate school level.
yeah, yeah, which I think sometimes mm, uh, some folks anyway in the polyamorous community are not as conscious about the what's required there
Yeah.
as others.
Well, thank you so much for your time, your perspective, your expertise, Jay. It's been
You're
delightful
very
talking
welcome.
to you, my friend.
All right. Well, yeah, I've enjoyed it also. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And those watching, those listening, go make love easy, y'all.